Justin Trudeau is in trouble. His poll numbers are abysmal. His own MPs openly discuss whether he should be replaced. His supply and confidence agreement with the NDP that propped his government up has been torn to shreds. His party has lost every by-election this year. They'll probably lose the one tonight in BC. His incoming counterpart in the US, Donald Trump, openly mocks and taunts him, threatens this country with tariffs that would rip its economy apart. And just when things couldn't possibly get worse, his closest ally, his finance minister, his deputy prime minister, his friend, has told him, "I quit."
On the day she was set to deliver the government's fall economic statement, you cannot underline the significance of this enough.
And she did it in writing. Upon reflection, I have concluded that the only honest and viable path is for me to resign from the cabinet.
This is absolutely stunning. Never seen anything like that.
It's a huge seismic development in Canadian politics. To lose her is a huge, huge deal. It changes everything.
How did it come to this? Chrystia Freeland issued a one-page resignation letter described as a bomb for the Trudeau government, explaining exactly why she's quitting cabinet. Some of it is explicitly clear, but other parts require context and a little bit of decoding. So let's go through it. We'll read it together. I'll do a little bit of reading between the lines as well, starting with the clearest reason Freeland chose to step aside. On Friday, you told me you no longer want me to serve as your finance minister and offered me another position in the cabinet. For literally months now, there have been rumors that Trudeau was expected to shuffle his cabinet, a way of freshening up government during tough times, especially after Trump won the US election in November, which perhaps requires a different political touch. But these rumors resurfaced just a couple of days ago when the Globe and Mail published that Trudeau was likely to tap former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney to join the team, which could mean that Chrystia Freeland, as finance minister, would be asked to make room. But what would have been very difficult to avoid, if indeed Trudeau was contemplating shuffling Freeland out of finance, is that it's very hard not to see that change as a demotion, especially during these tough economic times where the cost of living is priority number one, where Canada's growth has stalled, where we seem forever teetering on the edge of a recession. Finance and the economy as the portfolio is the most important file there is. It will be the pivot point of the next federal election, whenever it happens. And it's hard not to see a demotion from finance as showing a major loss of influence and trust, which is why Freeland wrote this in her resignation. "In making your decision, you made clear that I no longer credibly enjoy that confidence and possess the authority that comes with it." She's basically saying, we're done here.
The Prime Minister oftentimes wants to spend more than the Finance Minister feels comfortable with, but clearly there was a different vision in Chrystia Freeland's head for the country and the economy.
Chrystia Freeland has been a fiercely loyal member of Trudeau's inner circle. When she was Minister of Foreign Affairs, she was instrumental in navigating the renegotiation of NAFTA during Trump's first term. As finance minister, she navigated COVID and the mind-boggling amount of money the Trudeau government injected into the economy to keep Canadians whole.
How can the Prime Minister call Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland on Friday, only days before she was set to table the fall economic statement, and say you're headed for a new job? A lot of people saying there are serious questions to be asked about his decision-making, about his judgment, about his grasp over reality.
When star cabinet ministers Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott resigned during the whole SNC-Lavalin affair, Freeland stood with Trudeau. She was, by all accounts, an unfailingly allegiant member of the team. But the breaking point, being asked to step aside from the job she promised to do. There now appears to have been cracks in the relationship between Trudeau and Freeland even before this past Friday. Freeland writes, "For the past number of weeks, you and I have found ourselves at odds about the best path forward for Canada." And she hints at what one such disagreement might have been a couple of paragraphs down. That means eschewing costly political gimmicks which we can ill afford and which make Canadians doubt that we recognize the gravity of the moment. What exactly is she talking about there? Well, we can guess.
We're going to remove the GST, HST from groceries. 100% of groceries, all groceries.
The Liberal government was roundly criticized when it announced it was scrapping the GST and HST across the country as a 2-month Christmas present to Canadians, because economists warned it might drive up inflation, pumping more money into the economy, while reducing the amount of money government has to spend on other priorities. It was also seen by the opposition as a crass, transparent attempt to buy votes.
And today, what we have is a 2-month temporary tax trick.
The Liberals have shown that when they need billions of dollars in order to literally buy votes, they find it.
The other announcement Freeland made about sending Canadians a bonus check in the mail.
These checks for $250 are about recognizing that working Canadians have been through some tough times.
This too faced intense scrutiny from economists who wondered how that was supposed to buoy an economy.
It's a really silly policy to give a holiday to the GST. It's our best way of raising revenue.
The strongest sign we can find in Freeland's resignation letter that she may have gone along with policy that she never really believed in, they, and she's referring to Canadians there, they know when we are working for them, and they equally know when we are focused on ourselves.
They were at odds. They were fighting over whether this is the best use of money. And she is using her resignation letter to go out saying, I don't think what the Prime Minister has planned for the economy is the best, most prudent thing to do.
If the finance minister quits on a day like this and the future of the economic statement is uncertain, it is hard, I think it would be hard for other cabinet ministers to be there and not start to wonder why the heck Justin Trudeau is so adamant on staying.
For Freeland, resignation from cabinet was always just going to be the beginning, because what comes next? Inevitably, our time in government will come to an end, but how we deal with the threat our country currently faces will define us for a generation and perhaps longer. You can interpret this in one of two ways. Either she's stating the obvious, that, of course, inevitably, everyone's time in government comes to an end, or she's stating a different kind of truth, that by the looks of things, Trudeau's time in government will come to an end, maybe sooner than he'd like.
Justin Trudeau has lost control, and yet he clings to power.
His approval ratings show us he has never been more unpopular than he is now. He is widely expected to lose the next federal election, whenever it might be. And Freeland leaving raises serious questions about a prime minister running for re-election whose cabinet is crumbling in real time. But consider how she ends her resignation. I look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues as a Liberal Member of Parliament, and I am committed to running again for my seat in Toronto in the next federal election. She's leaving cabinet but staying a Liberal, which raises an uncomfortable question that she has had to answer for a long time now. Does she have ambitions to become Canada's first elected female Prime Minister? If she's not planning on leaving, does she plan on leading? Now that she's turned her back on Trudeau, openly questioned his choices, who knows where she sees herself next year or after the next election?